So I was living in Wakefield, and I had two other dogs, and they were sisters. And one unfortunately got out the door and was hit by a car. Maggie, who was my other dog, both of them were rescues. I could see that she was really depressed and was really missing her sister. So I started looking around and I found Frankie on at another rescue site in South Boston, and her story intrigued me. Her mother had been abandoned in Fitchburg in a gravel pit, full-term pregnant, and she actually and it was in like October, and she actually ended up having the puppies alone on her own. So the three puppies and the mother went to this rescue in South Boston. And by the time that I had gotten down there, the only puppy that was left was Frankie. She was about 8 weeks old. We brought her home. She got along right away with Maggie, who ended up being her sort of surrogate. And then I was able to start doing a lot of training with her. Very quickly became my best friend, like my buddy. She was with me all the time. Wherever I went, she wanted to go. I noticed that she had pretty much right away that she was very shy around other humans. When I realized that the inevitable was going to happen, which was going into a shelter with my kids, I found a family member to take her for me. She had her for about a week, and the day that I went into the shelter with the girls, that family member had lost Frankie. We started this whole search party for her, and she just was hiding everywhere. And this was in April of last year, and it was horrible.
When Frankie went missing in Wakefield, we did the things we normally do, like put up posters all throughout the neighborhood and talk to people and get information from any sightings that people had. A few weeks after Frankie went missing, we got a call from someone who saw Frankie running across the street with a sub-roll in her mouth early in the morning on trash day. And we set up a camera in that neighborhood to see if we could catch Frankie. And it wasn't until the end of June that we started getting sightings in a neighborhood over where Frankie and Sherry used to live. And we set up a camera over there near a path that led into the woods. And at that location, we finally got a picture of Frankie heading into the woods after the camera had been there several weeks. So we continued to leave food at that location for months, but we never caught sight of Frankie again. And we never got any local sightings of Frankie after that shot on the camera. So we thought that Frankie was either very good at hiding or she may have possibly left the neighborhood. We did several things to try to increase sightings. We went to the Wakefield Farmers Market several times to hand out flyers, and we put up a poster. And we actually met a few people who had seen Frankie in the past, but we got no current sightings of her.
Early April, someone reached out to our page from a cat rescue and said that someone had contacted them from Newburyport about a dog that they had been seeing in their yard for many, many months, and they were looking for some help for trapping. Since fall, she had been seeing a dog in her neighborhood, and she contacted multiple authorities and didn't really get far with them, and then had been told it was probably a coyote, but she really didn't think it was a coyote, and then went on to say that the dog had been living under the bushes in her yard the entire winter. When I opened the picture, I almost fell off my chair because immediately I knew it was Frankie. I was expecting, when she said that it was probably a coyote, I was expecting a dog that was maybe going to be a shepherd mix or something. So when I saw that it was what I thought might be Frankie, I forwarded it to Beth and Bella and the rest of them to take a look, and everybody couldn't believe it.
And so Chris and I went up there the morning, I guess it was the morning that Saturday before Easter Sunday, and saw her walking sort of up as we had gotten into the yard. She actually was trotting up the hill behind the folks' yard, and it didn't even look like the same. Had I not seen the picture of her sitting in the snow, I don't think I would have known it was her. And the odd thing was, I spend a lot of time in Newburyport, actually. I love the town. I go up there often. And I had just been up there in November, and driving right past that woman's house, right past that road. And I thought to myself, Frankie could have run out into the street in front of me, and I probably never in a million years would have known that it was her. Never would have recognized her, unless she had looked straight on at me and I had seen that face, the white on her face, and then I might have known. I might have considered it. I still am not sure that I ever would have thought that she would have traveled from Wakefield to Newburyport.
So Friday afternoon, I went up and set the trap. With it being the holiday weekend, there was, limited people. Volunteers had family things to do and things like that. So I set it up. And as I was setting it up, Frankie was sitting up on the hill above me watching, and then ran away. And I got to see her in person for the first time, and really at that point was pretty sure it was her, but maybe a smaller version. I had never seen her in person, but she didn't look like this, 100-pound dog that she was before. So that was Good Friday. Where we didn't have a lot of volunteers, we decided to shut the trap that night, just to see if she would come around. And she came around. She basically pushed the trap out of the way like it was a piece of paper so that she could get to all the food that had been set around it. And then the next day we decided we would go live with the trap. We were up there during the daytime, and we saw that we got a bunch of calls, saw that she was sleeping up on a hill in the sun. And then early that evening we set the trap with food, and by maybe 11 o'clock that night, I think it was around 11 midnight, she was in. And so we drove there was a few of us from Peabody. We drove up, we put her in the trap, took her with the trap, lugging this big trap, and brought her down to Woburn.
That Easter morning, to be sitting in the vet hospital with Frankie in the crate after a year, it was unbelievable. It was the best Easter ever. There was this dog that, I think really, if we were to be honest with ourselves and each other, we probably, most of us, would have admitted that we were really not sure Frankie was still with us anymore. And so to be able to recover her after a year, it's incredible.
I'm a first grade teacher from New Hampshire, and I have fostered dogs in the past for another rescue, and I have 2 dogs of my own that are both rescues from Louisiana. And I decided that it was time. I was in the mood to do another foster. And so I actually had contacted Paws New England and was set up to foster with them. And probably must have been March sometime, or April, I got a call, and they wanted to know if I'd be interested in fostering Frankie. And they sent me the link with her story, and I thought it was such an interesting story, and she looked really sweet. And I loved the fact that she's a senior, because I have 2 senior dogs at home, and I thought it would be great to have another senior in the house. And so I was given the contact information with Bella and Simone, and met them at VCA Wakefield, and that's where I met Frankie. And I brought her home with me, and we did introductions with my dogs out in the backyard to make sure everyone would get along fine. And it was like they'd always known each other. She just slipped right into the house, got along great with the dogs and the cats that I have, met my husband and my son, and as soon as I brought her in the house, she went right to the living room, hopped up on the sofa, made herself all comfortable, and it was like she had been there forever. And she and Natasha love romping around. We have a fenced backyard. She romps through the yard with Natasha. But she always wants to come back in. She doesn't want to be out for too long. I think after being out for a year, she's pretty happy to be inside the house. She'll go out for just a little bit, and as soon as she's done doing what she needs to do, she just trots with a happy, her tail's up and wagging. She trots right back to the back door, and she's like, I'm ready to come in now. My son always says that she should be an ambassador for the breed. I know she's a mix, but with the pit bull in her, when I had never met a pit bull, I used to be a little bit nervous and wasn't sure I'd ever be able to foster a pit bull or a dog that was part pit bull. And meeting her and just discovering her sweet nature has really opened my eyes to what a wonderful breed pit bulls are, and she really could be an ambassador for the breed. She couldn't be a sweeter or more loving animal than what she is.